Video 2 in the series of how I believe that I'm being trafficked. So I've resided in Indiana since 2007, and this is because of a transaction, or a transactional relationship, I should say, to a person whom I later did agree to marry. We'll talk about Stockholm Syndrome and trauma or abuse-driven behaviors at another time. From 2007 to early, or actually mid-2011, as I was due to have baby, September of 2011, I worked. I worked full-time and in as differing roles, like housekeeping, maid work, banqueting, bartending, things like that. So I worked consistently and attended school. So worked full-time, became a school or a massage therapist through Kaplan College. I was fulfilling my duties as housekeeper, cook, janitor, budgeter, bill payer, packing and moving many times by myself, yard work, fart smeller, and complaint department. So, and of course, laughing at every joke. The agencies that had contact with me here in Indiana were the Julian Center, the state's attorney. They were providing protective orders for me, and they provided advocacy and remedy for the battery that did take place upon my person, affirmed by the evidence. Apartment co-ops, gyms, mini gyms, places where I worked, doctors, therapists, clergy elders, IMPD, and the Speedway Police. In 2012, our pediatrician gave kiddo a diagnosis to stay away from dairy because he had a reaction that's very common to children at about that age, and that was her assessment. And she did give a diagnosis and a prescription, and she was able to hook us up with a formula that would supplement nutritionally and also provide probiotics, prebiotics, things like that for baby's digestion to alleviate the gas distress that he was experiencing and normalize, his diet and everything, and even mood stability, because one could be quite cranky when there's, situations. I had an LMFT through Families First for 5 years, from 2012 to 2017. I was in touch regularly with First Steps for speech therapy for a baby. That's 1 hour every week for about a year. There were daycares, the Indiana public school system for the speech, learning disability, speech delay assessment, and I was on food stamps. And the trustees for my early separation was really rocky, because the trustees denied me, turned me down for rent and utilities help, which hurt my credit badly, and I got no help, although I was married with a child in deep need, and I had a lawyer to advocate for me, and the bills for the marital home were placed with me, although I was a stay-at-home mother. I was injured, and the abuser, the husband, was the breadwinner, and he was aware, so he was forced to participate, and the only thing that he agreed to do was pay child support, and that took an entire 3 months to get. By that time, I was already working. By that time, I had already replaced the car that had been destroyed and could have been replaced, and medical attention could have been given to me, but it was not, because the breadwinner flaked out on his responsibility for car payment and insurance, leaving me to hold the bag. That is, again, something that a narcissist would do easily and eagerly. So there's that. And this marks the beginning of the war of attrition, fueled by the flying monkeys and triangulation in the campaign of denigration against the mother, and subsequently also 50% of our mutual child, who has no awareness or ability to know what a war is. So the courts knew about my licensed marital family therapist. The courts knew, the lawyers knew, DRCB knew, the guardian ad litem. They all knew that the LMFT work that took 5 years and was very successful, and she was regularly communicating with the courts and all of these gatekeepers, but they spun the narrative in favor of the father. So they are actually guilty of participating in the war of attrition and in the campaign of denigration and the abuse of our child. They are the gatekeepers for Father's Rights Initiative. They are the gatekeepers for the food stamp program, which takes money away from taxpayers. Well, it's Title IV, but we'll get into that later. Thank you.